What would you do if you were born into unimaginable wealth? If your family stood among the richest in all of Europe? If your intellect was praised by the brightest minds of your generation? Would you stay? Would you rise to power? Or would you walk away? Ludwig Wittgenstein did something most of us would never dare. After writing one of the most profound works in modern philosophy, he gave away his entire fortune, left the ivory towers of Cambridge, and disappeared into silence, into solitude, into a small, rural village, where he became a schoolteacher. Why would a genius retreat from the world? Why would a man with everything choose to start over, among children who barely knew his name? What was he really seeking? And what might we find if we dared to do the same? Ludwig Wittgenstein was born in 1889 in Vienna, into a world of wealth, art, and pressure. His father, Karl Wittgenstein, was one of the wealthiest industrialists in Europe, a steel magnate whose empire rivaled that of Andrew Carnegie. Their home welcomed artists like Brahms and Mahler, yet it was also a place marked by silence and suffering. Of the 8 Wittgenstein children, 3 of Ludwig's brothers died by suicide. Tragedy haunted the family like a quiet shadow. Ludwig himself was intensely sensitive, socially withdrawn, and plagued by inner conflict. Brilliant, yes, but restless. Deeply, deeply restless. He first studied mechanical engineering in Berlin, then aeronautics in Manchester. But the machinery of the physical world couldn't answer the machinery of his mind. He was haunted by questions about logic, language, and the limits of thought. That search led him to Cambridge and to one of the most influential philosophers of the time, Bertrand Russell. At Cambridge, Wittgenstein's brilliance was unmistakable. Russell saw in him not just a student, but a successor, someone who might carry the torch of modern philosophy into a new era. And indeed, Wittgenstein did write a book that would shake the foundations of the field, Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus, a work of piercing clarity and chilling precision. But when he finished it, he didn't bask in the praise. He didn't seek publication or promotion. Instead, he vanished. He believed the work had solved all the problems of philosophy. There was nothing more to say. So he gave away his inheritance, and he went, not to a university, but to a tiny village school in rural Austria, to teach children to live simply, to be, perhaps for the first time, human. Whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent. These final words of Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus are perhaps the most famous and the most mysterious Wittgenstein ever wrote. In that book, he laid out a vision of language that was both radical and unsettling. He believed the structure of language mirrors the structure of reality, that what we can meaningfully say defines the boundaries of our world, and beyond that, beyond the sayable, lies only silence. For Wittgenstein, philosophy was not about building new theories, but about showing the limits of what can be thought. Philosophy, he wrote, should not teach doctrines, but should aim to clarify, to dissolve confusion, to help us see clearly. And once clarity is reached, the work is done. There is nothing more to say. This was the vision of Tractatus. It was pure, dazzling, severe, and yet, over time, Wittgenstein began to doubt it. In the second half of his life, he returned to philosophy. But the man who returned was no longer the same, and neither were his ideas. In his posthumous masterpiece, Philosophical Investigations, he broke away from his earlier logic-based vision. Language, he now claimed, was not a mirror of reality, but a tool we use in practice, in context, in life. He introduced the concept of language games, showing how the meaning of a word is rooted in how it's used, not in how it maps to something external. Just as games have rules, so does language. But these rules are human, shifting, lived, not absolute. Meaning is not discovered. It is created between us. With this shift, Wittgenstein helped ignite a revolution in philosophy of language, influencing fields as diverse as psychology, cognitive science, education, literary theory. But through it all, he remained deeply personal. For him, philosophy was not an academic exercise. It was an ethical act, a form of inner work. He once said, "Philosophy is a battle against the bewitchment of our intelligence by means of language." To study philosophy for Wittgenstein was to seek liberation, not from the world, but from our own illusions about it. What do you do after you've written a book that changed the course of philosophy? After Cambridge hails you as a genius, and the world opens every door? Ludwig Wittgenstein walked away. He became a schoolteacher in a remote village. He chopped wood, slept in a cold, dimly lit room, taught children how to read and write, and asked himself, quietly, honestly, what it means to live a good life. His was not the kind of solitude that escapes the world. It was the kind that leans in to the small, the real, the painfully human. He struggled with anger, with guilt, with perfectionism. His life was far from peaceful. And yet, beneath it all, was a relentless search for truth, not in theory, in practice, in how we speak, how we act, how we love, how we pay attention. Wittgenstein teaches us something rare in the modern world. That intellectual brilliance means nothing if it doesn't transform the way we live. That the most profound insights are not always found in books, but in the quiet moments between words. And maybe, just maybe, what we truly long for isn't more clarity or more answers, but a deeper honesty with ourselves. In a world addicted to noise, Wittgenstein reminds us of the sacred power of silence, of saying only what can be said, and letting the rest be lived. What about you? Where in your life do you feel the pull toward stillness? What might happen if you stopped trying to explain everything and simply began to see? Wittgenstein's life was not easy to admire. It was jagged, lonely, often misunderstood. But maybe that's what makes it so honest, so human. He didn't try to go viral. He tried to go inward, to strip away every illusion until only the essential remained. In the end, he wasn't trying to teach us what to think. He was inviting us to notice the words we use, the games we play, the truths we've been carrying silently all along. So now I turn it to you. What part of your life have you been trying to explain, when maybe it's meant to be lived? What part of your truth begins where the words end? If something in this video resonated with you, a thought, a silence, a quiet voice within, stay with us. Click subscribe, not to follow more, but to go deeper. This channel isn't trying to catch your attention. It's simply inviting you to come home. This channel isn't trying to go viral. It's trying to go inward, to meet you where your words end and your truth begins.